Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. We are going to jump right in. I have a very special guest for you guys here today. And I think it's ironic because like the product that they were known for, like my dad actually forced me to learn how to do this at a very young age, sitting in the cab of his truck. And we're going to talk about mileage today. We're going to talk about routing. We're going to be talking about all of that stuff. So I got my man, Mark Lukenbill, on the show here this morning. Mark, what is going on? How are you?
Dude, Chris, Monday morning, man. Victory Monday. Kansas City Chiefs 6-0. Couldn't be happier.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, the Packers pulled out a win yesterday. That was pretty exciting against Houston. And
Crazy.
Yeah, dude, and what's crazy is you know, you have the year like this, and then, you know, because like the Packers had Malik Willis, the backup, came in for a couple of games, and dude, they're firing on all cylinders, man.
Yeah, I didn't hit my Romeo Dobbs, was kind of the last leg of my touchdown parlay on Sunday, so I'm a little sour at your Packers, but great game to watch, great finish, right?
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. So, dude, how'd you get your start in freight, man? I always like to show, you know, starting off my shows like this, and especially for first-time guests, long-time listener, but first-time guests on all this, man. So, Mark, what brought you into the transportation industry?
Yeah, man, and I appreciate you having me on, dude. It's great to talk to other people in the industry, and like you and I think the first time we met, before I get into it, I think we spent 45 minutes just riffing, just talking.
Correct.
And like I'm thinking in my head the entire time, this conversation should have been perfect for live, but I think that it's like that in this industry, right? You just meet people first time we've connected, and then everybody shares such common values and what they're trying to accomplish in this space that you connect automatically, and everybody's got their own unique story. And for me, man, it's weird. Like, I think for most of us, it's in my blood. So 7 years old, back of a cab. My uncles were all drivers, easy go, delivering golf carts all across the U.S. And raised by my grandparents. So they had to work. We couldn't afford daycare or anything like that. And times where they didn't just throw me outside and say, come home when it gets dark. They're like, dude, go hop in the back of the cab with the uncles and go see the world, which, then like, I think back to like when I was 9 and sort of pissed off that I had to go, right? Like thinking about like sitting in the truck for 10 hours, nothing to do, you know what I mean? Sitting in the back of the sleeper cab. And now that I've gotten a lot older, it's such an invaluable experience that I got to learn the industry from the inside out, all the things that I heard from them, just all the different cities and experiences that I got to do is, you can't really provide that to kids nowadays, right? It's an experience that, I'm super grateful for. And that's really kind of how I got my start into it. Right after college, I jumped back in, started as a brokerage, started in the brokerage world at Freight Quote, doing the whole pound the phones. What do you got to ship? What do you got to ship? Let me quote, which for me, man, that was kind of a big turnoff. Like in college, I sold cars, which I loved. This was back in 2006 or 7. So really before the internet was as prevalent as it is now with like price shopping and like customers coming in knowing exactly, MSRP and what they want to pay. And, you have this other one in Nebraska, blah, blah. So it was really more about like, they come in and it's like, why are you here? Right. Like, is your family growing? Talk to me about what you're trying to accomplish. This really consultative solution-based sales methodology. And so after kind of the initial start in the brokerage world where it was very much like pound the phones, 150 calls a day, doesn't matter, get a transaction, wasn't really jiving with me. And so I was like, dude, I'm just going to try something else. And so instead of, customer answer the phone, hey, what do you have to ship? It's like, why are you talking to me right now? What problems are you facing? Let's talk a little bit about your operational process, right? What could you do better? What do you want to do better? And how can I insert myself to help there? And and so once I took that approach, man, it was great. I mean, book of business flew through the roof. They're like, hey, we've got this tech product. We really want to take that sales style over and, talk to a higher level of individual about these solution concepts and really how to not just sell on a price perspective, but more from an operational and total cost savings, soft and hard. And so I've been in the tech side of the industry for the last 15 years, doing TMS, doing operational software, really anything that can help with process improvement, which has been a lot of fun.
Dude, and I think that I love that story because like transportation is such a vast industry, right? Like it's not just a broker, just a driver, just a dock worker, warehouse, whatever it is. There's so many different facets of the industry, and that's why I like bringing on more people onto this show who have diverse backgrounds, who've kind of worked on multiple sides of it to kind of give out their perspective and especially that niche that they are working in, right? Because, ultimately, I never, like when I started doing this show, over 4 years ago, I wanted to create a platform that people could just like tune into and then learn about multiple sides of it. And instead of like just talking about freight brokerage, because that's primarily where all of my experience is in the industry. But I'm like, man, there's so many other sides of it. And I always go back and think to my dad, driving in his truck, I'm like, it's not that he didn't want to improve his business because he was an owner operator, but could he realistically shut his operation down to go to a conference? Absolutely not, as most business owners can't, because, not only can you not take the time capital away, but also the money it takes to go out to some of these things. So it's like, I started this as like a resource that people could come in and listen to and get some value for their business and then bounce out and not feel like they're getting sold to, right? And that's why it's like, I don't have a paywall on any of this stuff. I'm very fortunate to have advertisers for this show. So it's like, I'm able to do that at the level that I am because of it, because I think like ultimately people need to know that they're getting the right information. And it's, we're in a day and age now where it's like, how do you know if it's real or not, right? So it's like when I come out here and I interview people and it's like, I'm talking to people who are like, no, man, I sat in the seat. This is how I built my book of business, and dude, you're working from like, you for who you're with now, man, you're with one of the legacy brands in the industry. I mean, Rand McNally, I know that you're a part of it, but like, dude, I remember sitting there and my dad made me. Granted, this was before, in the mid 90s and stuff like that. So like the internet wasn't really a thing back in rural Wisconsin. But, dude, I had the Rand McNally nap and he taught me how to read the grid system, how it would like, you had the state and then it would go down to like the city of Chicago, and then it would grid out on there and what roads to take. So it's like, man, it's just wild. And I said the same thing when I had Great Dane come on the show, the trailer manufacturer. When I had them, it's like, that's the only trailer my dad ever had, right? So it's like I kind of get these little moments of like my youth coming out and some of the companies that I get to talk to on this show now. So it's like, man, I just love that aspect of it.
It's such a cool, like, how we're all connected. Like, think about $1.5 trillion industry, but like, I guarantee it's that 6 degrees of separation thing. If you and I had a conversation for 45 minutes, we'd know somebody, or we'd share an experience, or we'd have a company that we both work with or for. It's just crazy. Like your dad with the trailers, the maps, right? I did the same thing. Craziest story was watching my uncle in, so moving freight into New York, you had to sit on the other side of the bridge until dark. They wouldn't let you cross the George Washington until after the sun went down. And we get into the city, and he's looking for this place that he has to deliver to. And I remember him, and he's, hands on the wheel with a map spread across the wheel, right? And he's sitting in there trying to navigate through the intricacies of downtown New York City, cussing every other word, right? Pissed off, right? Throwing things, can't find out where he's going. Sees a guy, homeless guy on the side of the road, says, "Hey, I'm trying to get here," and the guy's like, "Hey, I'll take you there for $10, and so uncle pays him. Guy hops on the side of the truck, hanging on. We take 2 turns and we're there, right? It was the greatest thing ever. And then who knows where that guy went? Just scattered off into the night. But but yeah, it's just really interesting. And when I got the opportunity to join Rand McNally and MileMaker, it was like, it's my exit strategy in life. Later on, wife and I RV, couple dogs, traveling the world, is to consult, right? So I want to get as deep in this industry as possible. I've been in the TMS space, order execution, operational efficiencies. And so I'm looking at all these different parts of the supply chain. And especially when we're in a time where the industry is kind of in a headwind right now, right? People are looking for additional cost savings wherever they can.
Yeah.
We have to look at like not the overall supply chain, but individual parts and segments of it, right? One thing that people think, they take for granted, I think, mileage and routing, such a small part of it, but can make such a big impact, right? Truck goes down an unpaved road, blows a tire, late delivery, maintenance cost, right? Roads closed down, weight restriction, they pull in, maybe they're 30 miles down the road, they got to make a U-turn. Yeah, additional mileage they're not getting paid for, late delivery, mad customer, big impact to their business,
So let's talk about this, man. What was that pivot like? And then like what I mean, I know you brought up a couple of points there, but I really want to break that down with it, because like there's, I think most people use Google, right? Like, let's be honest, they just go to Google and that's what they do, but they don't realize that might not be a truck route. There might be a one-way street that's down there. There might be road closures. I know today's maps, you can find out a lot more, but ultimately that's primarily passenger vehicle is what those maps are designed for, right?
Yep.
So it's like, and that's why, having those truck routes, and because like I move over dimensional freight, right? Like you can't take a lot of freight out there at certain hours, right? It's a lot more intricate than that blanket statement. But, ultimately, if you're going to be in the transportation industry, you need to, and then especially on the asset side, and I would argue brokers need to see this as well, because, again, the actual miles versus truck miles are 2 very different numbers. And then, there's a lot of shippers out there who will use their own mileage guide or their own routing guide for that stuff too. So it's like, oh, you go on Google Maps and it shows 1,100 miles, for example, and then you got your fuel surcharge in there at that. And then the customer bills you out at, 1080 because their mileage were different. Now, all of a sudden you have billing errors and everything else that kind of go along with that.
Absolutely. And so, the goal of what MileMaker is Rand McNally's product. It's the, the platform that we're taking this whole mileage and routing solution out is to make that the standard for everybody. So we have shipper customers, we have asset carrier customers, we have LSPs, brokers, 4PLs. But the idea about it is strengthening relationships, right? So if you get a rate from a customer at, whatever you think it's 1,100, and all of a sudden, they come back at 1080 and that guy actually drove for 1,150, that carrier is going to want 1,150 to pay his driver, right? Yeah. And especially in a time now where you need to be strengthening relationships, the industry is going to flip back, right? We're going to be at a point where carriers are going to be charging $6 a mile to go anywhere. That's going to happen. It does this all the time. What's going to get us through that is long, strengthened relationships, right? And if we're trying to short pay people or cheat people or cut corners, they're going to remember that whenever the market flips back in their favor, And so what we're trying to do is say, hey, if they're overweight or they're calling hazmat and they can't go through Indiana, it's not point to point anymore, right? We've got to take these things into consideration. We got to make sure that these drivers are getting paid what they actually earn, make sure these trucks aren't taking routes that can cause damage, cause additional time, make late deliveries, decrease customer satisfaction. It's these small parts of supply chain that people take for granted that are actually big impacts.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, right? And I think, knowing the most efficient route, and that's one of those things, Mark, why I love going on site at a lot of the shippers and receivers that I work with. If they'll allow me to, dude, I want to stop by. I want to see that area. I want to see what's out there. Granted, as a broker, I can't tell a driver what to physically do, right? I can't say, avoid this road or make a right, but I can let them know about the facility, like, hey, this is a massive warehouse. Go down to door 17. That's where the shipping and receiving office is. That's where you got to check in, and then like, hey man, there's a Love's in the area or whatever truck stop, letting them know and kind of going above and beyond. And, for me, it's more long, like, you brought up long-term, you brought up relationships, you brought up the fact that the market's going to shift. Everybody's going to remember exactly what you don't think that they're going to remember right now. And I'm pointing this a lot at brokers about the way that they may or may not treat certain individuals out there. That will be remembered, right? And ultimately, inside of my organization, because that's all I can really talk for, I want to set up a high standard right away, right? Where they know if there's an issue, they can reach out to us, customers, carriers alike. We're going to take care of it. We're going to respond. We're going to help, most importantly. And we're not just going to be like, well, figure it out style situation, because, time costs money. Time is the only thing that we can never get more of. If you're, it's like, if you want to make more money, make more sales calls, stuff like that. But like, you can't get time back. And then, that goes up, and then there's fines associated with that. If they take a wrong turn down there, no trucks, whatever, you get fined, you get this, you get that. And it's like, you want to have, and like with I know e-logs have been a thing for a long time, but every minute of the driver's day is accounted for, right? So it's like, how do we maximize all of that? How do we maximize their time? Because as the old man always said, if my wheels ain't turning, I ain't earning. So it's like, we want to make sure that people are efficiently getting in and out of facilities, avoiding road closures, non-truck routes, everything else, so they can keep running.
Dude, 100%. And it's interesting that you bring this up. So I don't know if you're going or how many of your listeners are going, but this week, tomorrow, I leave for the Broker Carrier Summit in Dallas. And it's essentially an event designed to have collaborative conversations exactly like this between brokers and carriers, right? Yep. I think too much of the day is business, right? It's very much haggle. I got to get this load moved. I got to keep my driver moving. The idea of this event is to take time out and sit down and talk about what issues both sides face, right? How can they find a common ground? Is it, hey, I need to get paid accurate miles to make sure that I'm paying my drivers accurate miles, make sure they stay. Therefore, you have somebody to haul your freight, right? It's a collaborative event where brokers, carriers, tech partners, they get together and they say, how can we do this better, right? Yeah. Let's ask questions. Let's learn about each other's businesses. Let's figure out better ways to work together. So it's Dallas. Quick shout out to the Broker Carrier Summit and all your listeners. If you're going, it's a great event. It's in Dallas and Fort Worth, starts the 23rd and goes to the 25th. But are you going? Is that?
No, man, I'm actually going to be in Kansas City, ironically.
Yeah.
I'm coming in. I'm going to be speaking at DatCon on Thursday morning. So I'll be up there for that. And, but dude, the Broker Carrier Summit, I know Dan Lindsay and, and I know a lot of people that are, deeply associated with that. And, I think that it's a great thing that it's long overdue. And, again, we need to have this willingness go on no matter what, though, right? It can't be, and again, I only, I like to be brutally honest at all times. And, I just call that telling the truth. Some people call it brutally honest, but, it's like, it's easy to sit in certain conversations when you're benefiting. It's very challenging to go and sit in that exact same setting. Say if the market was flipped and, back to what you were saying earlier about $6 a mile, I'm going to really be interested to see the kind of the openness to a conversation when the market has officially flipped, because it's easy to sit there and preach about a lot of things when you're benefiting. It's very challenging to sit in that exact same seat when you're the one who's on the opposite side of that conversation. But these are conversations that need to be continued to be had because, and I call this out a lot too on the show as well, Mark, on, if you ever pay attention to any of the data out there, like the fleet's top 10 reasons are for the industry, like what a fleet thinks is wrong, is fine with the industry, and then what a driver is, and they're never the same,
right.
So it's one of those things. Like ultimately, most drivers, I've met a lot of drivers in my life. I've only really been around truck drivers primarily. Most drivers, they're not asking for a red carpet parade.
Nope.
They're just asking to be treated with respect and that their business actually means something, right? So it's like I always go down with it where brokers, most brokers' problems are self-inflicted. It's not the driver, man. It's you not doing your job. That's why a lot of those problems arise. But who has to pay for that? More times than not, it's the driver that has to pay for it because you want to avoid it.
Yeah, dude, at the end of the day, we're all people, right? I mean, I learned this earlier on in my careers. I mean, if you think about it, that like, they're human beings. They've got families they're trying to support. They're leaving this job and, pursuing hobbies and other interests. And that whole, what you talked about, transparency. So I practice radical candor too. I like it. I think being upfront and honest, it prevents, problems later on down the road, like saying, oh, well, let me see if I can try to fix it first before I actually bring it to somebody's attention. Creates more problems, right? Because most of the time, if you have an issue that's going on, raise your hand and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Are you feeling the same thing too? Especially between carriers and brokers, right? Most of the time they'll say, yeah, or you'll figure out a common ground or solution, or they'll say, hey, don't even worry about it, right? Otherwise, letting things fester could affect the end customer relationship and potentially lose out on a lot of business. So it's promoting that transparency between the two.
I look at it like this, as well, man. Like I always want to think, how would you want to receive this information if you were in that person's shoes, right? I look at it, like I could sit up here as a broker and say, oh, we never fail. We're always perfect. We're this. But the reality is I'm a human being. We're going to mess up. We're going to fail. How do you want to deliver that information to somebody? Do you want to wait to the last minute, or do you want to give them a fighting chance to kind of get ahead and fix this stuff, right? It is completely okay to wave that white flag and say, hey, I messed up. All right. That ultimately, I personally, again, I can only do what I can do. And I look at it more, Mark, of like, how am I going to sleep at night? Am I going to sleep at night knowing that I burnt somebody, or am I going to sleep well at night knowing like, hey, you know what? I might have made a mistake, but I let somebody know in ample amount of time, or I gave them what, like, again, because things happen, and the only thing that you'll never recover from, at least in my opinion, in business from a relationship, is if they find out that you lied to them. That's what it's not the fact that something happened. It's the fact that you lied about something. That's what at least in my opinion, that is ultimately the biggest deterrent out there, So it's like, I know, I see this post a lot on social media where they're like, I don't understand why brokers post, a load going to the wrong city. And I'm like, I get it, because I was taught that way. You want to go big city to big city, recognizable. It's pretty easy. But I also look at it as, as a broker, instead of saying, hey, a load goes to Dallas when it actually goes down to Waco or whatever that is, just let them know on the front end, hey, this load's posted to here, but it actually goes here. Are you okay with that? Like, knowing that that's an issue, that would be like, that's the first thing I would say in those situations. Again, they're not going to be upset that you told them that you posted it that way, but they will be upset after they accept a load. You send the Raycon over and they're like, wait a second, this says Waco. You told me it was going to Dallas. The posting said Dallas. You're already starting off on the wrong foot.
Yep. So back to Ram and Alley and MileMaker, all these real world problems, right? I mean, you can holistically look at them from a 30,000 foot and make common connections, right? But when you actually bring it down to the granular levels, like mileage, for instance, right? If I provide them the wrong route, they go out a route, they've got to make U-turns. What if it kills their hours of service? They don't get to see their kids at night, right? And versus them calling and say, hey, why'd you route me this way? See, it's little things like that. You know what I mean? Making sure they have the most up-to-date information. That way they know how to do their job and they can plan accordingly, right? They know when they're getting home. They know how much money they're getting made. So the Department of Transportation, their first call when they have a road closure or any update to Ram McNally, we have a whole GIS team constantly coding, updating maps. So it's and real-time traffic and weather and all kinds of crazy stuff like that kind of promotes that transparency angle up front, right? So you know what you're getting into before you take a load. You know exactly how long it's going to take, where it's going, what way to take. So that way, again, if you need to see your family or you can plan your hours of service or, plan your money, right?
Yeah.
It's that whole transparency aspect of it. And it does get that granular, which why I was so excited to join, right? I mean, people think about, operation, execution, and visibility and all these different areas that, yeah, I mean, there's some level of that, but I think there's other parts of the supply chain that are being overlooked. And I think it's a big mission. I think if we can get everybody on the same standard system, it's going to promote transparency. It's going to promote better partnerships. We've got a super easy, simple, reliable APIs. We're trying to integrate with every tech partner out there. Imagine a procurement platform. That, for instance, might be a call that I make. I don't know what they're doing for mileage right now, but worth a conversation, right? If you're getting a rate point to point, right? I'm sure you want a rate that has accurate miles, that has driving miles on it. So when you're talking to a carrier, you know exactly what the whole city to city thing, right? It's not Atlanta to Dallas. What if it's, Atlanta to Waco? That's two different subsets of miles, two different costs, two different routes. Yeah.
No, and I think that, bringing more and more of that, I look at it, for the time save aspect of things, road closures, for example. I mean, Jesus, dude, in Phoenix here, there's a freeway shutdown every other day, it seems. But, that happens all the way across the country. And, I think, though, ultimately getting the most accurate miles. I mean, I know a lot of people who, they own trucking companies and, their drivers are paid by the mile. I mean, that driver pay is another big thing as well, right? A driver goes into it, maybe they're using Google Maps or whatever it is. And again, it brings that accuracy and that transparency part of it. What's some of the biggest advancements you guys have seen? Like, how do you get all of that information out there? Are you guys connected with the state levels, the Arizona Department of Transportation, and anytime they make an update, then all of a sudden it's updated on your guys' platform? Kind of walk us through on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're the first call, right? Oldest name in mapping, Department of Transportation. Anytime they make whether it's a classification to a road on weight or vehicle type, right? Road closures, all that. And then we have this amazing GIS team, 5-6 individuals that are constantly fielding these calls from every state, doing updates inside the platform. So it's as real time as we can possibly get it. 15, 20 minutes sometimes even sooner than that, right? Think about how many times you've used Google Maps and think you use the warehouse and the dock door, for instance, that these large distribution centers or warehouse facilities, and the map brings you up and you're looking at it on your phone. And at the end of it, it's just a big green or brown spot and says, you've reached your destination. And I'm looking and I've got, 5 square miles of facility. And it's like, well, where the hell do I go? Right. The idea is to take that extra step so that driver doesn't spend 20 minutes trying to figure out where he wants to go, picking up the phone, right? Where am I at? Where am I going? What am I doing? So yeah, we have dedicated individuals updating our platform. We have full point to point. Previously, it was really interesting when I joined. So if you think about Rand McNally, old Atlas, right? Yeah. They have this platform called Guide 19, which a lot of the shippers that used was essentially just highway networks point to point, right? That's what they used to put out RFPs. That's what they used to pay carriers, which a lot of times was really short. So then we had this segment of the market that were raising their hands saying, hey, I hate this, right? Every time I haul load for the shipper, I'm getting paid 50, 60, 80 miles short. And I'm having to cut that back into the driver just to make sure I don't lose drivers because it's not like you can go out and just get 20 more drivers, right? Driver retention is a really, really big thing now. So we said, hey, we've got to fix this. So 2023, we put out Guide 20. It's a web platform. It's got a terrific API that integrates into every ERP or TMS system out there, but it's got true point to point. So shippers don't have to use that highway network or that point to point mileage routing. Guide 19 is previous to put out these RFPs. They're doing more accurate data, which again are increasing relationships, more accurate information for carriers. But they just put this out in 2023, and they're like, we have this brand. How can we go out and really penetrate this new market and represent to carriers and brokers that, hey, we're not that short mile provider anymore, right? We're not just giving shippers point to point to short pay you. We're actually developing and innovating and growing our technology to make sure that we meet your guys' needs as well as the shipper side. So that's why they brought me on, and I love the tech. I love everything that they're doing with it. But the best part is they're continuing to innovate. So back to your point about making sure that roads are updated, and if there's information that's out there, we've got a team dedicated to go out and find it and make sure that our platform represents it.
So how do you guys evolve out from here? I mean, and again, you can say or not say any of what I'm about to ask, or you can kind of side skirt the answer if you want. Yeah. But I think granted, you got the miles and everything, but having a fuel chart, I think that would be amazing to see. Hey, going down to Dallas, Texas, oh, hey, you're going out to this suburb. This is actually all the fuel prices in that area. And it can help route, again, if you're down to routing and planning and everything, or, not necessarily the paid truck parking, but, hey, if you're in there with like a Love's, they got 14, spots available for parking. And dude, that's where I'm like excited about technology from there, to where it can get people more and more, to like uncover other cost savings that are out there. Or else, maybe there's a new truck stop that's opening up in a certain city, and now you're going to be able to get even closer to your, your set receiver and all of that.
So yeah, exactly. So what we're doing is we're listening to our customers. What I love about this organization, which is a lot different than a lot of other companies that I work for. I think about, like, with the COVID boom, how many of these Silicon Valley companies tried to build bolt-on tech to penetrate a $1.5 trillion industry. And they built all this technology before talking to people that live it, right? So for us, it's interviewing customers. It's talking to them about how they use it, why they use it, what else do you want to see, letting the people that pay us dictate what we build. So customers, you tell us what you want us to build, and that'll influence our roadmap, which takes that startup collaborative mindset of an older company with the new leadership that we have right now, to say, hey, we're not just going to be same status quo that we were, right? We're going to talk to everybody. We're going to figure out what you need, and we're going to build something that's going to be a long-term partner for many years to come.
Robert's got a question here. What about tolls and permit loads feature?
Absolutely, man. So our avoids functionality is tremendous. And that's another truck attribute thing, right? So if I want to route, avoid tolls, avoid unpaved roads, avoid states that require permits. Some states don't even allow specific trailer types. All of that stuff's inside the platform.
Dude, that's fantastic, man. I love it. We'll have to have you back on here, Mark. We like to, we're already out of time. I knew that this conversation was going to fly by just based on the fact that we did the last one, our one of our chats there, man. But dude, how does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more? And, Mark, we'll have you back on as you guys continue to do more and more things with it, because I think that this is something, as costs continue to rise for carriers, this is something that we need to push more and more out there to, you might not have the best loan terms on your truck, but where else can we try and make up some of those cost savings on the back end in your actual operation? So how does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you guys got going on?
Yeah, website's milemaker.com. My email is mark.lukenbill@milemaker. And I'd say the final note that I want to say is it doesn't cost anything to evaluate, right?
Yep.
I mean, right now, you might as well see if all of your vendor partners are giving you as much value as they possibly can and where you could potentially save. It doesn't cost anything to see our platform, see what it can do, see if it makes an impact on your business. So excited to show everyone.
Absolutely, Mark. I appreciate you joining me. And if for some reason you guys can't find Mark, hit me up. I will put you guys in direct contact with him. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back tomorrow. We got a guest coming on tomorrow. As always, you guys, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show. You guys share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.